Hi guys, today we'll start and discuss about your NMAT strategy. I'm sure with less than 1 month to go about, you guys are having some jitters and about how am I going to go about this paper, what is it going to be look like and give the NMAT exam. So let's begin with first of all, first overview, how many questions do I have? What's my scoring system? I have 120 questions, my score 3 per question and no negative marking, which is the best part for you. So I'm looking at somewhere around the score out of 360. Let's target to get ourselves a 230 plus to make sure that yes, we do not have to worry about our next stage CDPI and everything, and make sure that we are cracking our NMAT right in the first go itself. So before we go ahead into what we should do and how we would go ahead, here is just a quick overview onto what you should be like. So NMAT is basically not one of those complicated exams. Yes, it's a game of speed and accuracy, but if you have your concepts in place, you're good to go because the level is not that difficult. So what you need to do is thorough all your concepts, go through all the basic books that we've been given it to you. This year, in fact, you also have this NMAT by GMAC book. Practice a little bit from that as well, but your basic concepts is one of those enough things to make sure that you will crack NMAT. Second, let's practice. Practice and practice till you are perfecting, being a perfectionist at it. But we know NMAT is a speed game. So we practice with the timer ticking, because what happens is when you go into the exam scenario, seeing that the watch is clicking, all I can see is the time left. So my focus, rather than being on the question, goes onto the clock. So I'm wasting my time. So might as well practice at home with the timer ticking itself. So I'll tell you one nice strategy to do that is, which we call at CATKing the 30-40 strategy, wherein I am going to make sure that every day I'm solving for 30 minutes 40 questions. So I'm building on my speed and eventually building on my accuracy also. Probably on the first day out of 30, if I have to solve 40 questions, I might get 10 out of 40 round, right? But that's still 25%. So practice yourself so that you make sure that you reach to the level where 40 questions in the 30 minutes time is correct. Now I will share what was my strategy. So if you guys know that you can, when you're giving your NMAT exam, you can actually pick on to what is your strategy in terms of which question set you can use. So you have 6 options to choose which section do you want to give first: quant, verbal or logic. Generally, most of the people would recommend that yes, you should go ahead with this strategy wherein you solve quant before, you are doing your numbers game before, and then do verbal reading skills, and at the end doing logical reasoning, so that if you're bored, you're easy to go ahead. But I will tell you the strategy which I used for myself. Rather than that, what I focused on was I started off with the verbal section. So when I'm starting off with the verbal section, my first agenda was to make sure that I have 32 questions to do and I have 22 minutes of time. So get hold of yourself and get started with the verbal section, wherein you have the fresh mind. Your reading speed is actually fastest. So if I have less amount of time, more number of questions, I can do good. But my target here is to get 20 questions correct. I have to mark each and every question because I do not have negative marking, but my target has to be 20 questions. So here my focus will be first to finish off the easy questions like your prepositions, close passages, sentence corrections, which are pretty simple with all of those fill in the blanks with 5 prepositions, pretty simple, easy to go questions. Finish them up, then move on to go into your reading comprehensions, because you are going to have 2 RCs with 4 questions each, and your target has to be, have to solve 1 RC at least on the second. And if you have 3 RCs, then my target is to solve 2 RCs and leave the third one. The trick lies in which RC have I left, because that's going to make me save my time. Moving on, like I said, I was told you that instead of going by the conventional advice of quant, verbal and logic, what I chose on as a strategy was I started with verbal to start with my fresh mindset, where I'm going to have sure you're good at reading, your reading skills are fast, and when that 22 minutes gets over, you also do not realize that I've actually finished one entire set of questions. So when I come to my second section, I'm still fresh in my mind. That is when I picked on to the second section, which was the logical reasoning section, wherein I have 40 questions, 32 minutes. Still, I have more number of questions and less number of time with me. But let's see how does this paper come about. Your paper is going to have mostly around, out of these 40 questions, around 15 to 16 questions which are your normal analytical puzzles, logical puzzles, which you can easily do it. Next most important thing is input and output, critical reasoning, inference based questions in terms of your statements and assumptions, calendars and your seating arrangements. These are your major topics which covers up all the kind of questions in logical reasoning for the thing. But to make sure that important thing which is to crack this is your input output and number series, because your paper is bound to have at least 3 sets of input output series questions. What are these kind of questions? You will surely get a hold of in your books. Practice them, and that's the only way to crack them, because it's a logical sequence which is being followed in each of them, which is you have to guess that kind of thing. With practice, you'll get so used to it that you will know what is the kind of different sequences that are being followed in these kind of questions. Next important is your number series, wherein I have 3 numbers given, what's the 4th blank, what's the 5th blank. These kind of questions, missing number, all of these you'll have at least 4 to 5 questions. So it's a easy scoring areas, because my target is, again, I have to get 20 questions correct with ease, which are very easy. Follow them first. Generally these kind of questions tend to come towards the end of it. So your best advice is make sure that read the question. If within 60 seconds you're not able to answer it, bang, move on to the next. Mark it, flag it, and move on ahead. Don't waste your time on racking your head solving those questions. Move on. You have to ensure that you read each and every question of each and every section. So the guy who reaches the last question, who's read the last question, is bound to crack NMAT for sure. Lastly, I had come to the third section, which is my quant and DI section. Now, why did we choose this absolutely different strategy? Because what the thought process here is that begin with a section when you're fresh in mind and requires most of alertness. What happens generally is that because of time shortage, we always tend to be slower in our reading because we know that we have less amount of time. So might as well, when you're on the go, first you come with full enthu that I have to crack CAT, I'm starting with verbal. I won't even realize when it's done. Then move on to logical reasoning, which I still have a little fresh bent of mind, but I am playing on my strengths. So my strength was in quant and DI section, so that's at the end. So even if I am drained out after 1.5 hours of solving, it will not tax myself onto my quant and DI section because I'm already sorted in that and I know I'm good at it. So make sure you're playing onto your strengths. Now one other insight is that in most of your things, out of 48 questions, I am going to have 24 questions which are of CAT level, and I have 24 questions which are of CET level. This is a general trend. So I have a mix of difficulty level questions. CAT, a little complex, CET, a little easy. So my best part is I have to make sure that I first and foremost on the onset, I'm doing all these 24 CET level questions correct. That is where I'm saying that the trick lies in choosing the right question. Then moving on to the CAT level questions, and which are going to be a little tricky ones, but we'll make sure we'll do it. DI at a lot of times can be calculative intensive. So your job at that particular point of time is to just mark and move on ahead. Don't waste your time because approximations may not be very helpful. In that case, your question paper would definitely have at least 2 to 3 questions in quant which are direct formula based. Probably my trigonometry, cos A formulas, direct usage of time, speed and distance. These kind of questions which are easily scoring, you must ensure that you're doing it. So remember the trick which I had told you. You could jot it down, make notes of what I'm suggesting. 60 seconds. If I'm not getting the question, mark, move on. When I have the time, get back to hit to this question and see where you are, what you're lying down. Most important topics which you must do for cracking NMAT Quant is time, speed and distance, time and work, number system, probability, permutation and combination. One more topic if I have to add to this would be geometry, because of late you've been seeing a lot of questions from geometry, and seeing when we know this year it's going to be based on my GMAC and it's being done by the GMAT. Yes, the importance to geometry is surely going to increase this year. So, a quick overview of the overall strategy summarizing what it is. Your target is to score a 230 plus. Though the cutoff lies within the range of 207 to 210, my target is I have to get a 230 plus. Next, I have to make sure that you choose the right question. It's all about smart work. How do you do it and move ahead? Second, which we said, is that you can select which order you want to do. So my recommendation is to play on your strengths. If you are a god in verbal and you think I can do verbal at any point of time, go ahead, let that be your last section. Start off with quant and logic. So do a section which you are okay and decent first, which medium you're like okay, indifferent to, it's not easy, it's not difficult, it's not your forte second. And the strength, your make sure that's your last at the end, because you are going to perform it with a bang in that section. Second and the third most important thing which is there is the timer. So make sure you are not getting bogged down by the click of the watch and your focus is not on the timer, it's rather on the questions. So make a habit of practicing daily and make use of the 30-40 strategy like I suggested you, so that you are good with the speed and accuracy combination of cracking NMAT exam. Last and the most important is learn from others' experiences. You do not have to make sure that you are the one, 3 attempt diye hai to तीनों attempt में से you're going to screw up all the 2. No. First attempt you get, that's where we're going to use our skills of networking. Get hold of everybody, because most of your questions are repeat. See what everybody else is doing, get an idea, and you'll make sure that you are going to crack it and get going, get set with that. So all the best guys, cracking NMAT, and thank you so much.